Episode 5 of the Ball of Bottom. We're here talking Max basketball, and I'm joined, as usual, by Grizzled Vet, a.k.a. the former Mac, a.k.a. the master of disaster himself. He loves it when you call him Ref Papa. Shouts to Moshe Cook for that one. It's Natan Cohn, and we are joined by our resident stat head, a.k.a. the professor, a.k.a. the Oddmore of analytics. When the situation for the Ball of Bottom is grim, he's the Grim Reaper. It's Shua Cohen. And finally, there's me, one half of the Bandwagon Boys. I am Ari Lamb. My other half, Simi Cohen, will be back with us next time. And of course, as always, we have the one and only, the mighty Mayor Wiesel on the ones and twos, engineering us to the moon. And as Mayor always tells me to tell you, please like and subscribe to the Ball of Bottom on YouTube. And guys, the second half of the season is upon us, and just in time too, right as we get to the shall we say, more aesthetically challenging partios, the mishpatims of the world. The stories are done for a while, so as compensation, God gave his people the second half of Max basketball. And here to preview it with us, we have assistant coach of the Yeshiva University Maccabees, former coach of Frisch, former assistant coach of the USA men's basketball team at the 2011 Pan American Maccabea Games in Sao Paulo. He's the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Joe Schwartz. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
What an intro. I loved it.
So, I mean, listen, we got to get right into this. So you've had a lot of legendary coaching stops on the coaching trail. How did you find your way to YU? You're such an integral part of the team. How did you find your way to the YU Max bench?
Well, let's just say it was a fortunate, it was the right place at the right time. I ended after about 6 years, and the opportunity came up because there was an opening in the staff when Benji Ridholtz left. So spoke to Elliot, and he said, sure, come on board. I mean, Elliot doesn't do much of an interview process. So he says, come on board. He knew, I guess he, sort of knew about me, what was going on in coaching in yeshiva. So he just said, come on board. And then I came on. I think I was, third assistant at that time, something like that. So then after that year, one of the other assistants left. If you remember Daniel Tamir, he was the other assistant, and he wasn't able to continue. So I moved over a seat.
And how you're saying the coaching interview process is kind of like the YU student application process. It's very similar. It's like a pulse, and then you're good. He comes sit on the bench. Yeah, it's nice. I think
Elliot wanted to know if I could make it to the practices in the morning. I said, I think so. And he said, okay.
Listen,
love it.
Listen,
what attracted you about the YU, like about being a coach at YU?
Well, obviously I followed YU, had some players who were playing there, and they were sort of riding a wave at that time. They started to make some noise basketball wise. I was still coaching at Frisch when they made that first playoff run. They they won the conference and went to the tournament. So so I mean, you could see the movement upwards. So I felt, wow, it'd be a great opportunity. I knew the players they had, the potential they had, so it was a perfect time to come on board.
And what's the transition like, from coaching yeshiva high school basketball to coaching at the college level, and then particularly coaching at the level that the Macs are playing at now?
Well, in general, coaching college, because you're generally coaching better players for the most part. You usually get the better guys from most teams are playing college ball. Maturity-wise, these guys, you don't have to hold their hand, tell them what to do. They pretty much have a schedule they follow. They know what's going on. They have a lot of responsibility with school and sports and things. So you're not on top of them as much, worried about what they're doing as much as high school kids. And the level of play is much, much different. Much different.
You don't have to answer, but I'm just going to go on a limb and say the parent relationship is also just much better. In the college land than the high school land. If I remember my time.
Well, yeah. Let me just say it's I don't know, 4 years since high school, and I still haven't recovered from that parent body involvement.
Every kid is a star. That's the beautiful thing about high school basketball.
A star, yes.
So the coaching staff at YU, what's the breakdown of the staff? What is the YU coaching staff look like? I mean, everybody knows Elliot Steinmetz. He's kind of the face of,
Right.
he's kind of the face of things.
So then there's me coming. There's me besides me and Elliot. Obviously, is Ellie Katz, who's our resident. Like, I don't know how to describe him that he won't get all like annoyed about, but he's our resident. He's our resident kind of savant. Let's put it that way. Basketball wise, he does a lot of the scouting for us, and he fine tunes everything. The scouting is incredible. The scouting reports that he puts out are really very, very in depth. Excellent scouting reports. And then we have Mike Sweetney, who's been this now is his third year, who's the most gentle soul that you could ever come across. He's a great guy. Kids really look up to him, seek out his advice. He's always happy to help with, help the kids out as much as he can. And then there's Donnie Katz, who just came on a couple of months ago. And he's a great link between the coaching staff to the system. Some of the players. That's the staff, as far as I'm aware, unless there's some coaches in the background that I don't know about.
So
we're all coaches in the background. Just just so you know, we're losing you a little bit. You talked about sort of Donnie, but we'll give you a heads up if we lose you for a little bit more. Sometimes, by the way, going off video will help you. If we'll keep your audio.
Okay. All right.
So, Coach, when you're getting ready for opponents, what's the process? Are you preparing specifically for each opponent? Do you have a general approach to getting ready for games? What's the general approach you guys take?
Well, let's take the Wesleyan game out for a second. Our general approach when we come to play our teams outside the conference that are not at that level of Wesleyan, we get, sometimes I guess we'll watch them. We'll watch them on video, see what their style is. Then we break down what they do, get the scouting report. We don't specifically do practice against what another team does. We just practice what we do, and we put the onus on the other team. You got to stop us. We feel we have a high-powered offense. So the like I said, the onus is on the other team to do what they have to do to stop us. We're aware of what they do, but it's not something that we practice against specifically. Now, when we have certain games, like more important games, we will watch film of the other team as a team together and go over teams' tendencies. Watch what they do. Try to understand how to defend. That's what their actions are, and hopefully we have success that way. But that's not often. I mean, we did this obviously against Illinois Wesleyan. We did that this year. 2 years ago in the playoffs when we were in the tournament. Oh, yes.
No, we're good.
Oh, okay. So 2 years ago when we were in the tournament, we did it obviously against the opponents we were facing. And it's here and there. I guess this Skyline Conference Finals tournament, we go over some of the teams, even though we played them before. But that's about it. It's not something that we do on a consistent basis. So that's our preparation.
So, question on that. Do you think there's a chance that differentiating opponents in terms of like some you'll prep for and some you'll just say, we'll run our stuff and not really practice against? Do you think there's a chance that would bleed over into players' mentality and approaching different games?
To a certain extent, but again, we obviously emphasize the Wesleyan game because of who they were. So it wasn't that we totally disregarded what they do and just do our own stuff. We mentioned a few of the things that they do and their tendencies. But it has to be a special opponent right now. It's not something that we normally do. Now, does it bleed in terms of we don't regard opponents highly because we're not really going over the things that they do? It might be. I can't say for sure, but it might be something to consider.
So
when you look at the second half schedule, right, we start to think about sort of the games on. You have a couple teams, obviously, that you're coming up that you've played already once this season, and obviously in previous seasons maybe familiar with. Is this season any different in the sense that you have fifth-year seniors on other teams as well? You have sort of a more mature team. There are teams that have sort of known you guys for much longer. We've seen a couple times, like in the Farmingdale State game, and others where in Haddonville, where they're able to sort of put up and put together a closer game. Are you thinking about, like you talked about, sort of the difference in competition, but is there something anymore this year that you see that playing out? Do you feel like you have more of a target on your back because of the ranking? Are they playing harder?
Oh no, that's for sure. We definitely have a target on our back. Successful. Bring up the antennas of a lot of other teams. Obviously, they want to beat you because of the ranking. Prove that they can play with us. We do have a mature team, which helps. Which obviously is a big help. A lot of experience. On the other side of that is those guys. This is their opportunity, and we have quite a goal that we're trying to achieve. So it does help us to have that kind of experience on the team. Obviously, the window of opportunity, who knows what next year is, but the window of opportunity is right now. And unfortunately, with COVID, we lost 2 years of that opportunity. So this is our last run with these particular guys, which I'm sure you know who they are.
Staying on the COVID topic, right? We've seen sort of the announcements from Skyline and different things happening in different places. The next couple of games, right? The plan is to play those without fans, right? In the stands. Is there anything? I mean, you guys have been there before, done that sort of at the with the tournament games. Is there anything that changes, with that reality?
Doesn't really matter to us, especially because the next 2 games are away, so it doesn't affect us at all. From what I understand today, I got some kind of notice that we're going to have fans in February 1st. They're going to consider having it. I know the max will probably allow fans, so it's up to each school to decide. I'm pretty sure that YU will have fans.
Great. That's great. So first half of the season, as a coach, longtime observer of the team, these players, what's your number one takeaway about Max basketball from the first half of the season?
Super talented team, but have yet to play a full game. If you've watched us play, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We are not able to sustain 40 minutes of basketball for whatever reason that might be.
So we've talked about this pretty extensively as friends as a group. This has been a long time lament of ours. And I could think of a couple of different explanations for it, and I'm curious to hear your reactions. Is this sort of the double-edged sword of having, fifth-year players? Like, you have people like Gabe Leifer, who are such keys to how the offense runs, who are very busy. It's a little harder to focus. Is it just, the fatigue of being on this streak and having everybody essentially treat regular season
Well,
games
let me
against
just
them like a
interrupt. Let me
championship?
just interrupt you for a second. The streak was such a minor consideration of ours. We never ever discuss the streak. We never discuss it. It's a lot of it is from the outside. Obviously, it is a wonderful streak, but it was not something that was our concern at all. It was by the way, we've won this amount of games.
Right. No, undoubtedly, but I suppose I'd put it this way: one thing that I think is indisputable, however you're, if you're kind of an outsider ranking yeshiva, so whether you wanted to rank yeshiva number 1 in the country or number 2 or number 10 or whatever, I think it's indisputable that YU has done more to bring attention to D3 men's basketball, certainly this season, than any other program in the country. I mean, ESPN and the NBA are not tweeting about any other team, no matter how good they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So one thing you kind of saw from some of the Midwest fans was a little bit of either resentment, not resentment, that's probably the wrong word, but just, wanting to show Yeshiva University their place, right?
I understand that completely, especially coming from the tradition that they have.
Yeah, exactly.
Which this upstart school, like all of a sudden, we've never existed before here, and here they are.
Right. Plus, you have every team wanting, even if you guys aren't thinking about the streak, every other team, as you said earlier, wants to knock you off the streak. Right. So everyone's treating each game against us as a championship game, basically.
Exactly.
So I guess the question is the fatigue a product of the circumstances of the team? You have some fifth-year guys, there's COVID, it's a dual curriculum, you guys have a challenging schedule, or is it a mental thing? Is it, you got the guys need to toughen up for the second half? What do you ascribe that kind of thing
Well,
to?
listen, the dual curriculum has been going on forever. So, all these years guys have been playing. It's no different this year than all the other years.
Right.
So I don't think that was a factor. Obviously, listen, it's human nature. You're thinking about who your opponent is, and you're thinking, all right, these guys obviously are not the best team we're facing. So you might be lax coming out of the gate, which I think is understandable, but it's something that we cannot really allow to be, to allow the players to accept that. And it's not always easy to get that transference from understanding that to what's happening on the court.
We're talking, it sounds like we're talking in certain situations, right? Like self-motivation, right? Meaning that in some cases, the environment, right? Like meaning walking into the building, on December 30th, and if you didn't feel, right, the game pumping you up because the whole place was rocking and all this stuff, right? Those environments are going to get you going. And there may be other games,
yes,
right, where you kind of got to get a little self-motivated.
Right. Listen, I got to shout out to the MAC fans, because when they come to the gym, they're loud, boisterous, they have a lot of energy, they get the team going. They're phenomenal fans. I definitely think they're the best fans, certainly in the conference, and anywhere that we've played outside of the conference, they're the best fans. Now, if we're playing up to our standards and our capabilities, we're going to be good about things. If things are not functioning like we think they should, and we're not getting better from game to game, or even, first half to second half, we're going to have problems. So our emphasis is on just continuing to get better, no matter who we're playing. If we're doing that, it doesn't matter, the score will take care of itself. So we don't want to have games like we had the first half, where we're muddling through 10, 12 minutes of the first half, and we're exchanging baskets with a team that's obviously not as good play. They're good players, they're college players, but they're not at the level we are, or we expect ourselves to be. So we got to get past that. We got to come out of the gate understanding, ready to play, and that there's a lot of great things that Wesleyan game taught us. And most people say, hey, it's better to lose now than at the end, obviously. But that game was a great lesson for our players, because first of all, they got to play super competition. Secondly, if you saw the single-mindedness of that team, they came out with a specific purpose, and whatever you might think it would be, I would say they came out with this purpose of showing us and everybody and all the hype and all the media and all this and that, like what kind of team they are. So, and they did that from the get-go. They just jumped on us, and we were not ready for that. I don't think that us as a coaching staff did a very a good job preparing our guys necessarily for that kind of game or that intensity. We went over film, we spoke about what they do, be ready, they're a physical team, but it didn't quite, it's a little disconnect between what we said and what actually occurred. So I think we could have been better as a coaching staff getting the point across and prepping them, but they just jumped on us, and it was hard for us to get back. Now, when we play some conference teams or out-of-conference teams that aren't as good as us, they've also jumped on us somewhat. We've been down, but, we always felt like, okay, you know what, enough of that, let's just play. But when you play a team like Wesleyan and you'd have that start, you can't come back against a team like that. You just can't do it. So that was eye-opening for us as a team, about the mentality that you're going to need to get us where we want to get going. So one of the things that we emphasized when we left that game, and we hadn't seen, this is the first time we saw them was 3 weeks ago. We gave them some thoughts about what they should be thinking about coming back to play, what they want to do differently. How do we as a team want to approach things differently? Because we're not necessarily going to be satisfied with the Skyline Conference championship, which is something that we're going to have, obviously. But like I said before, our goals are a lot bigger than that. So we have to be in the right frame of mind, physically and mentally, to get there. And we'll see what happens once the season starts. I could just say that practices have been a lot better since we got back. A lot better. So that helps.
Music to my ears. I love it. So I'd love not that ensure. I'd love to get into dig into some of the X's and O's. I guess this is as good a place to start as any. I guess there's no natural starting point. But one thing is, with the, when you're watching, we all saw this at, in the Illinois Wesleyan game, but as a group, and I think even on one of our post game shows, we talked about this even after, previous opponents. One of the things that you run into with YU's motion offense is you have, you're playing a 5-out scheme. You kind of have all five, you have every guy rotating out at some point. So one thing you run into is, Jordan or Matan Zucker, and this is a Matan Zucker fan channel. We accept no other opinions. But you have guys like that rotating out. As the season has gone on, the better teams or the smarter teams have learned to leave them alone when they rotate out near the 3-point line. So how do you game plan for someone that's gonna leave your guy, kind of give your guys
well,
a Tony Allen treatment?
If we're playing our system correctly, then even if guys are not guarding, there's others, their men can still be screened. It's just we have to follow our, do what we do. That's what I'm like I was explaining. If we get away from that, we see certain things and we're not following our motion, they're going to pack in the middle, obviously, and play the way they did, which is what any smart scout from the other end would say. So we still have to continue our motion, our movement, because if you saw in the second half of that game where we started to make some strides, even though we didn't necessarily play real well, we had a bunch of layup opportunities or open shots, or open movement, easy passes, easy baskets, and they were playing the same way. So it's upon us to do, like I said, to do what we do and to be consistent about it. And not to say, this might not didn't work the last time. Let's just do something that I don't know. It was an interesting kind of game for a lot of reasons because we just stopped moving, and we were waiting for the ball to come to us, which is something we don't do. And if you remember, I think the statistic, we were 0 for 9 in the first half from 3. Yes, some of those shots might have been open, but they weren't necessarily open with the offense that we create, which would have been better shots. So that didn't help. We forced a lot of things. We just were not moving the ball. I guess Shua would probably know this better, and I know I've spoken to him a few times about this. I don't know, maybe we had 2 passes before we threw. We did it. We shot the ball when we normally have 6 to 8 passes before we shoot the ball. So those kind of things were atypical for us, but that's what happened in that game. So they did leave us open. It's a long answer to your question, but they did leave us open. But if we continue to do our motion correctly, we should still have plenty of opportunities to get easier baskets or open shots.
So a couple of things. I wanted to go back to your earlier point briefly about the Illinois Wesleyan game teaching you this lesson about how you need to prep for that level of opponent. So I understand that right now it seems to have improved, but how do you go about making sure that mentality stays there as they go and face some lower level competition again, for the most part, for the second half?
So listen, practice, the tone that's set in practice is going to be the tone that you see in the game. You can't practice 50, 60% and expect to have 100% effort in a game. You have to practice that way. It's always been a mantra that the way you practice is the way you play. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So, again, we are gearing up for the second half of the season. We put the first season behind us with the lessons that we learned. We are gearing up mentally and physically for the challenge in the second half. And one of those things is that we're much more intense at practice. They understand the players are smart, besides being very talented. They know what's up. They know what's necessary. And you can just see that they just picked up a whole other level, which unfortunately, I'm not sure why I wasn't there in the first half of the season. But as we're approaching the second half now, they just kicked it up, not just one notch, but I would say a few notches. We had a practice this morning, which was the most intense practice that I've seen in 4 years since I've been there. I mean, they were just going after each other.
You love to
Can't
hear
wait
it.
till Wednesday night.
Yeah, they were going after each other harder than in any game that they've played this year.
You love to hear
listen,
it.
that's what we saw a little bit of in the second half of that Wesleyan game, right? The Illinois Wesleyan game, you started to see in spots, right? Different individuals. Yeah. I mean, I would argue Ethan was doing it all game long. He's sort of established himself, even in the, unfortunately, in the handful of games he's played because of injury. He's like Mr. Intensity, and I'm sure that's right. Showing up.
Well, if you remember him in the beginning of the year when he was healthy, the intensity that he brought off the bench on the defensive end was a game changer for us. Unfortunately, the injury has really set him back, and he's trying to get back to 100%. It's not the easiest thing with a knee injury like that.
Yeah, lower half injury.
He's playing as hard as he can, to the best of his ability. But hopefully, as the season goes on, he will get back to close to 100%, and we'll have the real Ethan Lascaux out there.
When you think about sort of getting to that, I know we all have now, with the announcement last week, and the answer could be plain and simple. But I'm just wondering if, thinking about the game on the 17th, right, the St. Joe's game that's been added to the schedule, sort of, to replace the Williams game. Is there ever conversation? Is the conversation around that basically like, hey, we need a game, let's get the best game, because I know we're talking about, we got to deal with the regional rankings and the tourney seeding and all that. Or is it almost feels like as you're talking, it's also all right, let's get another litmus test, right? Let's see that intensity carry over and make sure that we have something on the schedule before the tournament to make sure we can get that litmus test going.
Yeah. There's a lot to that. If we would have had that, it would have been great if we could have that Williams game right after. And then we could have seen like who we are and like really understand it could have been one. Okay, we had one bad game. We came back against Williams. We competed at a high level. We didn't get that. So it's good to have St. Joe's because they're a good team. I think, I don't know where they rank now. They're in the top 10.
Just came out today. They're number 9.
Okay, number 9. They're right a little bit ahead of us, right, or something like that.
We're behind. You guys are 7. Yeshiva is 7. We're 7.
Yep.
And then you got Newport, which somehow at 8 got a single vote for, I think, top number 1, which is weird. I'm sure there's a great Newport voter.
I think, yeah, exactly.
It's probably Poppers. It's Poppers for sure. Poppers.
They beat Randolph-Macon, so gave an excuse to a homer.
Exactly.
It's good that we found that kind of level team. It again, like you said, it's a good litmus test going into the tournament. We have a history with them. We played them twice last year successfully. So it's a good game as a replacement game. That's how we feel.
Yeah, fantastic game. I think fans are ecstatic. Right, it's a home game. I know you guys did a home and home last year. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Huge. So one thing that came up in the wake of the Illinois Wesleyan game, and is I think critical as we look forward to the second half of the season, it kind of became like a little mini controversy on hashtag D3 Hoops, on Division 3 Hoops Twitter, is boxing out.
What are you talking to Shua over there or what?
Always.
Well, always. This became like a hilarious, like an ongoing controversy.
Became a little meme.
Exactly.
I think with Bob over there.
Exactly.
Well, if you ask Shua, he knows exactly how I feel about this thing. And all kidding aside, it's something I think a lot of teams don't do it. But since I've been at YU, it is one of the most glaring things that we don't do is box out. I don't think they spend any time in high school. For instance, in high school, I'm sure they're not taught boxing out to any extent. Time restrictions or whatever it might be, but it's just not done so much in high school. And I was pretty surprised that we didn't really do that in up at YU. Even when we were in 2 years ago, when we had that, that run, the whole thing, we still didn't box out, and we got hurt on the boards. If you remember some games, we were hurt on the boards.
You see it over and over again.
Yeah. So it's something that has to be told. You have to keep saying the same thing all the time. Got to put a body on somebody, not necessarily the standard box out that mostly probably everybody learned at one point in time. It's just put a body on somebody to prevent them to get to the basket, so it allows you to get to the basket, or a teammate to get to the basket, to get the rebound. So it's something that we're emphasizing. Again, came back from mid-break here, and something that we emphasize now when we do our drills or scrimmages and stuff. We're always shouting, box out, put a body on somebody. Now you hear the players starting to say the same thing, because obviously when we reviewed the game film with them, that was something that was mentioned more than 10 times.
I know. Well, it's not a podcast, Ron. I was going to say this is not a visual medium, but it is a visual medium. So fist pump, amazing. I sent it around to the group. Chris Herring just published his book on the 90s Knicks, and he talks about how when the Knicks would do boxing drills, Anthony Mason used to treat the box out drills. Anthony Mason used to treat those box out drills like Game 7 of the finals. And I just sent that out to the crew afterwards, because that's the kind of intensity you need to beat, not just the Illinois Wesleyans, but anyone. If YU is fortunate enough to make its way into the Elite Eight or the Final Four, you're going to be up against teams that all bring that kind of intensity. We all know that. The Mariettas, the Macons, the Illinois Wesleyans, the Oshkoshes. Yeah.
So on that note, even playing Skyline Conference teams, if we're not boxing out,
second chance.
If we're not starting to box out in those games, we're certainly not going to be boxing out in the big games. So that's when I say to you, we're looking to get better as we go along. That's one of the key areas that we're hoping to get better at.
I like what you said about the finding your man and then it being a teammate going to get the ball. I read somewhere that they said offensive rebounding is an individual stat, defensive rebound is a team stat. And I think that, yeah,
love that.
And if everyone has that focus on keeping themselves between their man and the ball, someone on the team will get the ball.
Right. Listen, boxing out, rebounding is a 50-50 game. You keep stats on 50-50 balls.
Yep.
That's a 50-50 stat. Anybody can get that rebound if you want it. You got to want it more than the other guy.
Yeah, it ties back to the intensity ports, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of these things are hustle pieces, and I think that's the motivation. Right. It's happening in practice now, which sounds very encouraging. A couple of fun moments that should be coming up. Obviously, one of the major moments being in 2 or 3 games. And I know it's not something that you're thinking about, or players are thinking about while they play. But in a handful of games, you should see Ryan become the all-time leading scorer at YU, which should be an incredible moment for both him and the fans of having the privilege of playing on the team with the current leader, Yossi Gev. I can tell you what an incredible accomplishment that is. We're hoping that we've been trying to connect Yossi and Max live to be able to get him back to to be able to congratulate Ryan on that and talk about it. But you also have almost like a very interesting. I guess he didn't have it last year, but almost like a super senior night towards the end of the year, which should be an incredible thing for fans to be aware of right on February 19th.
Oh yeah.
Which should be it should be unreal. It should be just an incredible celebration of some wonderful, wonderful players on the team.
Is Ryan? Maybe you can tell me. Is Ryan actually leaving or coming back next year?
I don't know. He did something with the guys in Boca. He's he didn't want. I don't think he wanted to answer the question, but we'll. I guess it depends on what happens in the next 10 games or so.
Yeah,
he's gotten media training. He must have, right? Because he's gotten so good at giving pro athlete non-answers to questions. Which
I'm also sure. I'm also
respect
pretty
the
sure
game.
that I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Terrell treats every last regular like a senior night. You know, from his freshman year to sophomore. It doesn't make a difference to her. It's the same.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't care if like Terrell, he should have a great career. Like the thing I care
the
most about
family
is
should be back. Yeah, Mrs.
I want
Terrell.
I want Mrs.
Yeah.
Terrell back in the stands. I don't care if Ryan's there, great.
Never leave.
The real value add is Mrs.
Is that
Terrell.
something? Is that something you guys like? You know, feel obviously when we have fans in the stands, but it's amazing to see. You know, and obviously compare and contrast. You know, to my day, but it's amazing to see the amount of parents and family that's in the stands. Most of them right behind you guys, you know, on the bench. But it's just incredible to see the support from the families, both in town and out of town. Is that something you guys feel and see? You know,
100%, 100%. You know, we talk to the parents after the game a lot of time. They all come over. So we have a relationship with them. We go away on weekends. You know, we have these weekend tournaments. A lot of the parents come, so you get to know them on a personal level. It's fantastic. I love it.
That's awesome. What if I as sort of we wind down here, as I finish a couple sentences or throw these out to you, the second half of the season will be successful if
we improve as from game to game, it'll be successful. We will guarantee you at the end, if we are improving from game to game, we will be tough to deal with in the tournament. If hopefully we're there, but that's what you got to look for. Look for that.
Game to game improvement. Are there, as you said, they're not going to be necessarily, you know, different game plans per game, but you're going to be harping on some specific areas. It sounds like that you're going to want to see that execution.
One of the ways to gauge how if we're getting better is watch us on the defensive end, because in all honesty, if we're not playing good defense, we're not going anywhere. Yeah, I know we can score, but we have to play really good defense as a team defense to be successful. That's where you got to look for improvement.
What sticks out to me, it's interesting because it's sort of like, you know, coming together. What sticks out to me the most about those two St. Joe's wins last year was the defensive intensity in those games, especially the game at St. Joe's was unreal in terms of the defense that was played and the way.
If you remember that game, we were down at halftime that game.
Yeah, down eight at halftime. Tied it within the first 3 minutes.
Right, and we got together at halftime. We spoke about it. The guys on the team were very emotional about it, and they came out with a whole different bunch of guys. It's like we turned on the switch. Now, we've done that this year at a few minutes at a time, where all of a sudden we're stopping teams and we're turning them over and we're getting easy baskets. We need to see that on a consistent level for 40 minutes. We're trying to get there. Again, it's something that we have to keep getting better at, and hopefully as the tournament comes around, we'll be really good at that. We'll see.
Yeah, we saw, I mean, it hasn't been completely devoid. I think, you know, we saw really, I mean, maybe it was just the hype of the season, but Lycoming, that game, you know, it was almost start to finish or pretty much start to finish. You saw a little bit of that Mount St. Vincent game earlier in the year. So we know it can be done.
But if you remember the Mount St. Vincent game, they jumped on us early.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were making shots on us.
Yeah,
wide open shots.
It's like a boxing match. Nobody's doing the thing where they're dancing around with you guys trying to, you know, get the lay of the land. Everyone's coming out swinging. It's impressive, and it's something that, you know, obviously you have to mentally and physically be prepared for.
It's a mental thing. We have to be prepared for that kind of stuff. We have to from the get-go. And
from the jump, as they say.
Yeah, from the jump.
Really?
And again, that's something that we're emphasizing, and we'll see as the second half of the season goes on if we're able to accomplish that.
So looking to the second half, if you just look on a calendar, there are a lot of games bunched together in a short period of time. How do you go about dealing with potential fatigue factor, given that you're trying to give the main rotation guys a lot of minutes to continue to improve and gel? Like, you can't just sit them with 50 minutes left
Right.
if you're up by 30.
We generally don't practice as hard when we have that kind of schedule. We sort of have a lighter practices, so that's how we keep guys fresher. Some guys will be sore and achy, understandably, so they might sit out of practice. They still get their shooting in on their own. They still get some of that individual work that they like to do, but we don't run very hard practices when we have so many games in succession.
So as we wrap up here, final thoughts. You know, as a team, we all know what the goal is. The goal is a national championship. Coaches have said it. You know, your star players have said it. Everyone down from number 1 to all the way to the end of the bench has said it from day one. What's the most important key that you guys need to bring into the tournament in order to find the kind of success that you want, especially as you get closer to some of those teams that are going to play you like Illinois Wesleyan did?
Again, it's something that we have to understand, that in order to get where we want to get to, we need to play 40 minutes of very hard, tough basketball. And that will start on the defensive end of the court, because that's where the energy starts from. That's how you'll see, like I said before, that's how you'll see if we're going the right direction. If we're still 3 games into the new season and we're still struggling like that, then we got to regroup somehow. But I'm not anticipating that. These guys are very, very good. Besides being talented, they understand what's at stake, and we're expecting them. And based on what I've seen, I'm pretty sure that we will have a whole different way of playing in the second half.
Oh,
I was going to say, any new wrinkles? Meaning, is it going to be just intensity on both sides, or is there anything, at least for me, you talked about offensive execution, but on the defensive side, is there anything that that you think about implementing? Obviously, we know you guys don't press, right? It's not something that's come out. Right. There are other things, or is it just really an intensity and a commitment?
Well, I mean, there's no tricks up our sleeve, if that's what you mean. Can we change something as we move it forward? It's possible that we might add a wrinkle or two, but it's not in the cards right now, from what I understand. Again, it is like you just said, very well, that it's about execution. We need to execute correctly. We need everybody to be on board. We need everybody to be selfless. Don't get discouraged or frustrated. Just continue the process. If we're doing those things, let's say on the offensive end, we're scoring plenty of points. We won't have a problem.
My last most burning, and I think really the most important question about the Max this year, as I think it was either Ryan or Coach Steinmetz revealed on the Behind the Bema podcast, that there is a 1 minute divrei chizuk in the locker room, either before every game or at half. Who's given the best one? You're just one man's opinion.
Max Leibowitz.
Now we're talking. Max Leibowitz. You heard it right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Max representing the Max. Love it.
Max is one of the best kids that I've ever been around in coaching.
Oh, that is
phenomenal
awesome
competitor and an amazing person.
That is awesome to hear. It couldn't end on a better note. Than that. Quickly before we go, special announcement. We are going to be doing the Balabatim. We're going to be doing our own Manningcast style broadcast of the away game versus Maritime. You can find the link for the live stream of the game with our commentary for the game coming up Saturday night in the description right below this video. We're going to start at 8:30, include some special guest appearances. It's going to be an absolute blast, and it's going to be incredible. So join us for that experiment. We want to see how it goes, and if it goes well, we're going to do a lot, a ton more fun stuff with that. Anyway, Coach.
Yeah, I heard we're getting
Coach
the Manning brothers, right?
We it's
yeah,
it's
they're coming on.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I think Cooper already confirmed. I think we should be good.
Yeah. Classic, exactly. I can neither confirm nor deny that Charles Barkley will be joining us for the game Saturday night. Please tune in for that to see if he shows up. As I said, can neither confirm nor deny. Coach Joe Schwartz, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Awesome.
It's been an absolute
Appreciate
blast.
it, guys. Thank you very much. Loved it.
It's incredible. We love again, like you said, we love seeing you sitting there next to a sitting Coach Steinmetz every game, and we like. I wish, forget about the game. We all wish we what's the conversation going on right now? Like, we want to be a fly on the wall. We know it's awesome, and we're just incredibly thankful to you for joining the YU Max community. And we wish you guys continued success,
Thanks again.
personally and professionally. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you
Love
so
it.
much.
All right.
Take care. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.